Good morning and welcome to WKNI TV 25 once again this morning, and a little bit after 8 o'clock. We got a little bit behind the 8 ball there, but we've got so much to cover. We're excited to have this young man in our studios once again, and it's always a pleasure to have you, Mayor Earl Johnson, the City of Andalusia Mayor, in City of Progress. How is that?
Well, yeah, it is. That's not our slogan, but it could be.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, we are just jumping leaps and bounds and all sorts of good news coming out of there. And last night y'all had your council meeting and just some great news was delivered there. And we've had Senator Holly, we've had Mike Jones Jr., our representative, on here over the past week, and even Mr. Rydell yesterday was on here. And it's all about progress. It's all about growth in this community and planting the infrastructure. And we're getting it. So tell us how it went last night over there at the City of Andalusia Council meeting.
It went great. We had a good meeting, an exciting meeting, because we were able to talk about this fabulous new grant that we have been successful in getting awarded to us by the Alabama Department of Transportation, $8.6 million. And that is one of the A-Trip grants that you've probably heard about and been reading about, which is a program that Governor Bentley put together last year, and it's designed to give cities and counties money with which to improve their infrastructure related to streets, highways, and bridges primarily.
Well, I'll tell you, they really must have really looked at what has happened here in the past in order to grant that kind of money. Now, we're talking $8.6 million. Okay, let's back up. Campaign and all this stuff. You were talking about, and the time before when you ran before, about, pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Okay. Well, this certainly went down to sub-pennies on the dollar.
Well, this is really an outstanding grant. Most grants that you get have to be matched either 50-50, a dollar for a dollar, or maybe 60-40, with the city putting in 40, and the state 60, or the federal government 60, or whoever the grantor is. But in this case, it's 80% paid by the state and only 20% paid by the city. So it's kind of once in a lifetime grant situation where we got, for every dollar that we spend, the state will put $4 into the project.
Wow.
And the other great thing about this grant is somewhat different in the way it's administered and the way it's handled. The state actually comes in, Department of Transportation actually comes in after all the planning and work is done. There's a lot of preliminary work, probably a year from now before we'll actually see any work on the street out there. And this is on South 3 Knot Street, by the way. And there's a lot of paperwork and regulations and things that have to be accomplished, because some of this is related to federal monies. And so you have to meet Federal Highway Administration requirements. So not only do you have to go through a state screening process, but the state then has to send it through the federal screening process. And it has there are issues with respect to construction specifications and safety specifications and all those things. And you have to meet the federal guidelines and regulations. So you can't just go out there and build what you want to build. It's something that has to meet all the federal regulations. So it's a longer process in the front end, but maybe we'll have a better product on the back end once we get it completed.
Well, looking at South 3 Knots right now with all the new business out there, that's where David Darby's got his new pharmacy,
right,
and the cancer center, I believe, is there, and just a whole lot. Dr. Butler's office and there's so much.
Well, the whole medical community primarily is out there. Now we have some other physicians' offices and pharmacies scattered around the city, of course, but by and large, that is the center for the medical community in Andalusia and Covington County. And we have seen a good bit of growth out there in the last 4 or 5 years, and we expect that growth to continue. And we have some issues with traffic and handling of traffic, especially at particular times of the day when folks are going to deliver children to the elementary school and things like that. So,
because that's the back way into the elementary.
That's right. So it connects into Moore Road, and Moore Road is a heavily traveled road, and South Three Notch is a heavily traveled road, street, and there's a lot of traffic in and around the medical complex out there. So we're going to have to do some traffic studies and some safety studies to come up with the final design that we can put in the right-of-way that we own now. We don't want to have to buy a new right-of-way because that really slows things down and really gets expensive. Money. Yeah. So we're going to work within the right-of-way that we already own to try to design a system that will best suit and accommodate the traffic that we have out there, particularly heavy during the mornings and early afternoons.
Well, Mayor, let's just go back to somewhat of a nightmare that turned into a very pleasant situation now. You don't hear any grumbling about it now like you did before, but we're talking about River Falls Street.
Oh, yeah.
And, the folks out there were upset that the construction and businesses were out there suffering. Now, I've talked to folks out there on South Three Notch, and they were all aware before they put their offices in, that this was going to happen. So, there's no surprises out there.
Well, it's just human nature for folks to be be unhappy when their convenience is interrupted in any way. I understand that. We all understand that. It's our job to try to make that interruption and inconvenience the least that it can be. But you have to maintain infrastructure, streets and sidewalks and utilities. And sometimes that requires going out there and digging stuff up and making a mess, and so you can put it back and get it back where it'll be good for another 50 or 60 or 75 years. And I just don't know how else to do it. And our job is to try to accommodate the public and the area, the neighbors and the residents and the business people as best we can, and we will do that. But there will be times, just like there was on River Falls Street, where folks will be inconvenienced, and that we'll apologize up front for that. But I don't know of any other way to get this done, but except to go out there and do it, and of course we're going to be aware of the community and the neighbors and the business folks, and do the best we can to try to accommodate them. But there will be some inconvenience, and there's just no other way to do it.
Access to the hospital, emergency will be definitely kept in mind.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the planning. That's one of the reasons this is going to take so long to plan, is because there's one difference in blocking somebody in to getting into a convenience store, and it's altogether different blocking someone where they can't get into the hospital or an emergency room, and that's just not acceptable. So we obviously will have to make arrangements and for that, so that the hospital and the emergency facilities will never be completely blocked.
Do you think it's going to? I mean, I know you don't have all the plans drawn out yet, but when you drive down River Falls Street right now, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. We had hoped in the early planning stages to get the state to buy into replacing all of the utilities and getting them underground off the street, and that was kind of like a long shot from center court, and we really didn't know what our chances were on that, but it's worked out, and they. How we made that work, Eddie, is we started working and getting the governor down here to see our city, see what we've been doing, get the DOT director down here to actually ride our streets, and getting other state officials down here to see what we've done here in Andalusia with respect to improving our infrastructure, like River Falls Street and East Three Knot Street and other where we've done these things we're talking about. And it's part of the whole master plan to do that. And I think once they saw Andalusia and saw how our other projects looked and how well they were accepted and how important they were, and they saw how important South Three Knot Street is to our overall look and feel as a city, they approved this. And so we will get 80 cents for every dollar spent on utility replacements and all that stuff. So it's going to be
it's pretty well unprecedented.
It really is. This is the largest. This is the largest grant, as far as I can determine, the city has ever received, maybe by a factor of 2 or 3. I mean, 2 or 3 times as large a grant as we've ever received. And I can't. I don't take credit for that, but what I do say is we got a lot of good folks that work real hard, and I give a lot of credit to our state representative Mike Jones and our state senator Jimmy Holley, and quite frankly to the governor and to the DOT director for taking the time and the trouble to come to Andalusia and see what we're doing. And it's a lot easier, I think, than when they go back to Montgomery and start saying who's going to get what. They've been to Andalusia. They've seen what we're doing. They may not have been to some town in North Alabama and seen what they're doing. So I think that's important, to build that personal, close relationship with these statewide leaders, and we've been successful in doing that. And I think that speaks volumes for why we were successful in getting a grant of this size. By the way, this was the 4th largest grant in this series that was announced on Monday throughout the entire state, including Jefferson County and Madison County and Mobile, Ball, and all the bigger cities and counties. Andalusia's was the 4th largest grant in the state of Alabama.
Incredible.
And so that's, again, that's not bragging, that's just stating a fact, and we're proud of that. And it's going to help us complete and improve the last major thoroughfare in and out of Andalusia, which is one of our main streets. And it will look as good as our others do. And that's just something that will last for more than a lifetime. After we're all out of here and gone, our children and grandchildren will be able to enjoy and use these streets that we're building now. And so it's a building infrastructure for, several generations maybe.
Well, Mayor, we're going to take a quick commercial break here in a few moments. And when we come back, there's a lot of neat stuff that's happening. We've got kind of a neat thing. I tell you, we just love him, Seth Hammond. Okay, he's back into a position to help us out. We'll talk about that when we come back, as well as I want to cover some of the infrastructure, past and future. During Dr. Rydell's visit here yesterday, we talked about the education being part of the infrastructure that attracts businesses into the community, and then our shortcomings we have. He's got the dormitories going on out there to house 96 students, and we certainly need housing here in the community as well. So I'd like to talk to you about those subjects when we come back, if you hang in there. And we do have a saying here, and when you're over there, you're in the hot seat for it. You just have to say, keep it real.
All right. We'll keep it real, that's for sure.
Keep God in it. We'll be right back right after these messages, folks. God bless you. We love you. And we'll be back with the Honorable Mayor Earl Johnson, City of Andalusia, right after these messages.